Day 721. I can't even begin to describe how the events of this week have broken me. After everything that happened in Pittsburgh, I wasn't sure if I wanted to take Stephen anywhere near another city. I thought about heading to the desert back west, where there isn't as much for him to destroy. But then I returned to the RV after a short walk at a rest stop along I-76 to see all three of my companions staring at me. What did I do? I asked, ready to run back out the door in case they had turned evil and wanted to kill me. We've been talking about what we want to do next, and there's one place we need to go, Lisa said. Okay, well, I suppose we could make a stop somewhere. Where exactly? Hershey World! Stephen yelled. The fact that all three of them were so excited did nothing to make me think it was a good idea to take Stephen to a place with that much chocolate. But Lisa assured me she would keep an eye on him, and the decision was made to head there the first thing the next morning. As the sun came up, we hit the road and made our way across Pennsylvania. I had been to Hershey once as a kid, and it hadn't ended well for me. My dad had taken me during one of the weekends he had visitation as a way to get back at my mom for something she had done. He gave me free rein to eat as much chocolate as I wanted, and I took full advantage. By the time the weekend was over, I'm pretty sure I was 20 pounds heavier, though a lot of that came off as I spent the next week getting sick all over my mom's house. As we pulled into the parking lot of Chocolate World, I secretly prayed for some miracle that would keep Stephen in line. The best hope I had was that sugar wouldn't affect him the way that it affected real children. I didn't count on it having an effect on Kyle, though. Surprisingly, the day went rather smooth. We learned all about the history of chocolate manufacturing and got to stock up on every kind of candy in existence. Lisa walked away with some new candy-themed attire, and even I found some candy and shirts that I liked. As we climbed back into the RV, I was surprised at how long we had stayed and how awesome the stop had been. We stayed in the parking lot that night and spent the next day in the chocolate-themed amusement park next door before finally tiring of all the candy theming and deciding to leave. I assumed the piles of candy would go to waste, thinking there was no way Stephen and Kyle would physically be able to eat, let alone eat that much. But, to my surprise, they were able to ingest it. I heard wrappers crinkling as I drove, and Lisa confirmed it was Stephen and Kyle opening the candy. A glance in the mirror a few minutes later revealed Stephen's face was covered in chocolate. As we pulled in for gas a couple of hours later, I learned the effects of sugar on both he and Kyle. Kyle was bouncing around the motorhome like some kind of lunatic. He was not only barking, but now he was also throwing in the occasional meow and even doing his best to sing what sounded like mariachi music. I'm not sure how he was making those sounds, but it was an odd experience to say the least. Stephen, on the other hand, was passed out in his usual corner on a pile of candy wrappers. He was snoring for the first time I've ever heard it, and he refused to wake up even when I told him he could get a Slurpee as I filled the tank. With a tank full of diesel, we started on the road again. I decided to head north for a bit, not fully sure of where I wanted to go, until I looked up at the map and realized we were closer than I thought to the border with New York and Niagara Falls. I'm not even sure how I made it back that far west, but it was probably just because I was lost in the scenery and singing along in my head to the music that I wished I could play on the radio. Within a couple of hours, we arrived in Niagara Falls, stopping for the night on the American side of the falls near a welcome center. I hadn't told anyone where we were going as I wanted it to be a surprise, but I'm pretty sure Lisa figured it out when she saw the signs along the road as we drew close. By that point, Kyle had crashed from his sugar high, joining Stephen on the growing pile of candy wrappers to sleep off the wild day. Lisa went back to lay down as well as I parked the RV and told her I would be back after a short walk. I was tired from driving, but I needed to stretch my legs before I could even think about sleep. As I walked, I couldn't help but think of how awesome it would be to see the falls from the Canadian side without needing a stupid passport. I wasn't planning on going too far, but I did want to check out the falls once before bringing Kyle and Stephen over in case there was anything they could use to cause trouble. Standing on an observation deck that jutted out over the water below, I was lost in my own thoughts and enjoying the view when something caught my eye. Standing on the Canadian side was what appeared to be a man in a suit. I thought for a second it could just be a trick of the light or maybe some kind of statue, but then it moved. It started walking toward the Rainbow Bridge that crossed the river between the US and Canada, and I felt the urge to give chase. Running off the platform, I sprinted along the path to the bridge, stopping to catch my breath when I reached the crossing as I looked for the man once more. At first, I didn't see him, but a shadow in one of the street lamps gave away his position, and I crossed the bridge as fast as I could. Once on the Canadian side, I spent the better part of 2 hours searching for the man. I yelled out to him, tried hiding and watching for him to reappear, but the search was fruitless. Convincing myself I had just made the whole thing up in my head, I walked back across the bridge and went back to the RV to get some rest. I didn't sleep well that night, but that seems to be a pattern lately. As the sun rose the next morning, I had breakfast and ventured out with the crew to explore the area. The falls were obviously the main attraction, but we found plenty of other things to check out, including a casino on the Canadian side where Stephen won a jackpot before I confiscated his winnings when I found out he had cheated. He tried to argue with me that it didn't hurt anyone, but gave up when I pointed out the winnings weren't worth anything anyway. We spent the rest of the day and this morning riding various rides, racing on go-karts, and playing a few rounds of putt-putt golf. As we enjoyed the view from the American side of the falls once more this afternoon, I realized Stephen had disappeared. I looked around the area and tried to remember where the last place I had seen him was, all while trying to calm Lisa down. It wouldn't take long, though, to find him. Kyle started barking louder than usual and pointing his little leg at the river, trying like hell to get Lisa and I's attention. As I turned my gaze to where he was pointing, I noticed what appeared to be a barrel floating down the river toward the falls, with Stephen's head poking out of the top. I tried yelling for him, but there was nothing that could be done at that point. He was moving swiftly toward the brink and would be going over it within seconds. Looking back, I should have known he would try something like that. He was much too enthusiastic about the video we watched of people throughout history attempting the same thing. As the barrel disappeared over the crest of the fall, I was sure we would never see him again. There was no way I would find him on the rocks below with the massive flow of water that would be cascading down. Lisa and Kyle both started crying, and even I shed a tear knowing how much I was going to miss his crazy little ass. I used a pair of binoculars I found in a gift shop to locate any sign of movement around the base of the falls, but there was nothing. We decided to have a memorial for him this evening, feeling it was only proper to remember the good times and the smiles he brought to our faces. Lisa was sitting on the couch, dressed all in black, and Kyle was next to her, with a handkerchief clutched in his little hand. I donned my best suit and tie and leaned a picture I had drawn for the occasion up against the wall. I had just started into a hastily prepared eulogy when a noise from outside broke in over the sobs of Lisa and Kyle. I crept to the door and opened it just in time to see Stephen walking up with a rather large fish in tow. He was humming the battle hymn of the Old Republic, and he appeared to have grown a couple of inches. Spotting me, he stopped in his tracks and smiled. "Did you see me? I made it over the falls and lived to tell the tale, unlike those squishy people in the movie." Yeah, we all saw you. We thought you were dead," I stuttered. "Nope, I'm more alive than ever, and the water I soaked up even made me taller, at least until I dry out," he said as he moved past me into the RV with his fish. It would turn out the fish was stuffed, and he had grabbed it from the gift shop as he made his way back. He was excited to see all of us grieving, saying that he was touched that we missed him. Lisa vowed that next time she would be throwing a party instead of a funeral, and I had to calm her down before things got too out of control. Once everyone calmed down, I went outside to get some fresh air and write. Every time I think I've seen it all, Stephen seems to find a way to outdo his previous stunts. I think I'm going to start feeding him loads of sugar before each activity to help him calm down some. I still can't get over that man I thought I saw the other day, though. Was it just my imagination? It could just be my brain trying to compensate for the lack of people, using the figure Stephen claimed he saw to add some life to the world. But what if it's more than that? Could there be someone else out there like me? I suppose it won't do a lot of good to just sit here and write down a million questions. I need to get some sleep anyway, as we're moving out tomorrow. I'm not really sure where exactly we're headed, but I think I might aim for Boston next week. I've always wanted to see the Freedom Trail.